5 days before Christmas, my daughter sent me a text telling me not to come. My son-in-law didn't want me at their holiday table. I spent Christmas alone in a diner, feeling forgotten and unwanted. Then a stranger's family invited me to sit with them. 7 years later, after a tragic accident, my daughter discovered the life I built without her, and the family who chose me when she didn't. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we bring you the emotional, shocking, and unforgettable stories from Reddit and beyond. Today's story is about a father who received a text that shattered his world, and the unexpected Christmas miracle that changed everything. If you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, hit that like button, subscribe so you never miss a story, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. This one will stay with you. Let's begin. The text message arrived on December 20th, 5 days before Christmas. I was sitting in my small apartment, watching the snow fall outside my window, a cup of coffee growing cold in my hands. The apartment was quiet, too quiet, as it always was since my wife passed 3 years ago. I'd been looking forward to Christmas for months. My daughter, Emily, had invited me to spend the holiday at her house, 2 states away. I'd already bought the presents, wrapped them carefully, packed a small bag. I was going to leave on the 23rd, drive slowly through the winter weather, arrive in time for Christmas Eve dinner. The text was from Emily. Just a few lines, but they hit me like a physical blow. Dad, I'm so sorry. Don't come for Christmas. Michael says it's too complicated with his parents visiting. He doesn't want you there. I tried to fight for you. I really did. But he won't budge. Please don't be mad. We'll do something in January. I love you. I read it 3 times, each time hoping the words would change. They didn't. Michael, my son-in-law, didn't want me there. It was that simple. After 5 years of marriage, he still saw me as an outsider, an inconvenience, a reminder of a life Emily had before him. I'd always sensed it. The way he tolerated me at family gatherings, the way his smile never reached his eyes when I walked into a room. But I'd swallowed my pride for Emily's sake. She loved him, and I wanted her to be happy. Now, on Christmas, I wasn't even worth a seat at the table. I didn't reply immediately. I sat there, watching the snow, feeling the weight of loneliness pressed down on my chest. My wife, Sarah, would have known what to say. She always knew how to make things better. But Sarah was gone, buried in the cemetery on the edge of town, and I was alone with a daughter who couldn't stand up for me and a son-in-law who wished I didn't exist. When I finally texted back, I kept it simple. I understand. Have a nice Christmas. Love you. That was it. No anger, no guilt trip, no pleading. What was the point? Emily had made her choice. She'd chosen Michael, as she should. But it still cut deeper than any wound I'd ever felt. The next few days were a blur of nothingness. I canceled my plans, unpacked my bag, put the presents in the back of my closet. I didn't tell anyone. Who would I tell? My friends were mostly couples, busy with their own families. My siblings lived far away, with their own children and grandchildren. I was a 63-year-old widower, spending Christmas alone because my daughter's husband found my presents too complicated. On Christmas Eve, I went to the cemetery. I brought flowers for Sarah's grave, white roses, her favorite. I stood there in the cold, the wind biting through my coat, and I talked to her. I miss you, I said. Every single day. Emily isn't coming for Christmas. Michael doesn't want me there. I don't blame her, I guess. She's trying to keep the peace. But it hurts, Sarah. It hurts so much. I don't know what I did wrong. I tried to be a good father. I tried to be supportive. But it's never enough. The grave didn't answer. It never did. I stood there until my toes went numb, then I drove home, made myself a frozen dinner, and watched a movie alone. It was a comedy. I didn't laugh once. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold. The sun reflected off the snow, making everything sparkle. It was beautiful, in a cruel sort of way. I woke up, made coffee, and sat in my living room, staring at the tree I'd decorated anyway. It felt pathetic, a tree with no presents under it, no one to share it with. I thought about calling Emily. I picked up my phone a dozen times. Each time, I put it down. What would I say? Merry Christmas? It didn't feel very merry. I didn't want to ruin her day with my sadness. So I stayed silent. By noon, I couldn't stand being in the apartment any longer. The walls were closing in. The silence was deafening. I needed to be around people, even if I didn't know them. I put on my warmest coat, my thickest scarf, and I drove downtown. Maybe I'd walk around, look at the decorations, pretend I was part of the world. Everywhere I looked, I saw families. Parents with children, grandparents with grandchildren, couples holding hands. They laughed. They pointed at displays. They took photos. I walked past them, invisible, a ghost at the feast. The joy around me only amplified my own isolation. I got hungry around 1 o'clock. Most restaurants were closed, of course. It was Christmas. But I remembered a small diner on the edge of town, a greasy spoon that stayed open 365 days a year for people like me. The lonely, the forgotten, the ones with nowhere else to go. I drove there, parked, and walked inside. The diner was warm and smelled of coffee and bacon. It was about half full. I saw a few other solo diners, heads down over their plates. A family with young children in a booth. An elderly couple sharing a piece of pie. The waitress, a tired-looking woman with kind eyes, gestured to a small table near the window. "Just you today?" she asked. "Just me," I said. She smiled sympathetically. "Coffee, please." I sat down, ordered the turkey dinner special, and stared out the window at the snow. The food came. It was decent, better than my frozen dinners anyway. I ate slowly, savoring it, trying to make the meal last. Because after this, there was nothing. Just an empty apartment and a long, cold night. That's when I heard the voice. "Excuse me, sir?" I looked up. A man was standing by my table. He was about my age, maybe a little younger, with a kind face and a warm smile. Behind him, at a large booth, sat a woman and 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl. They were all looking at me. "I'm sorry to bother you," the man said. "But we couldn't help noticing you're eating alone. It's Christmas, and we have way too much food. We ordered the family feast, and the kids' eyes were bigger than their stomachs. Would you like to join us? We'd love the company." I blinked, stunned. For a moment, I couldn't speak. A stranger, inviting me to his family's Christmas dinner? It was so unexpected, so kind, that I felt tears prick at my eyes. I don't want to intrude," I stammered. "You're not intruding," the woman called from the booth. "We insist. Come on, bring your plate. There's plenty of room." The teenagers were smiling too, genuinely, not with the awkwardness you might expect. They looked like good kids. I hesitated for only a second. Then I picked up my plate, my coffee cup, and walked over to their booth. The man slid in next to his son, making room for me across from him, next to the woman. They introduced themselves. The man was Tom. His wife was Diane. Their daughter was Sarah, and their son was James. Sarah, the same name as my late wife. It felt like a sign. For the next 2 hours, I wasn't alone. We talked and laughed and ate way too much food. Tom told stories about his job as an engineer. Diane talked about their recent trip to the mountains. Sarah, who was 16, told me about her passion for painting. James, 14, was obsessed with basketball. They asked about me, genuinely interested. I told them about my career as a high school history teacher, about my love of reading, about my wife who passed away. I didn't mention Emily. I wasn't ready to talk about that wound. When I finally looked at my watch, it was nearly 4 o'clock. I'd been there for 3 hours. I tried to pay for my share of the meal, but Tom absolutely refused. "Absolutely not," he said firmly. "You're our guest. This is our Christmas gift to you." Diane nodded. "We hope we'll see you again. What are you doing for New Year's?" I laughed, genuinely surprised. "I don't have any plans." "Then you do now," Tom said. "Our place, New Year's Eve. We'll text you the address." They actually exchanged numbers with me. A family I'd met 3 hours ago, treating me like a long-lost relative. I walked out of that diner feeling lighter than I had in years. The snow was still falling, but it didn't look cold anymore. It looked beautiful. I drove home with a smile on my face. That night, I didn't feel lonely. I felt grateful. Grateful for the kindness of strangers, for the reminder that the world wasn't as cold as it sometimes seemed. I put Sarah's photo on my nightstand and said, "You won't believe what happened today." New Year's Eve came, and I went to Tom and Diane's house. It was a warm, cozy home filled with the smell of good food and the sound of laughter. There were other people there too, Tom's brother and his wife, Diane's parents, a few neighbors. They welcomed me like I'd always been part of their circle. We counted down to midnight, toasted with champagne, and I felt, for the first time in years, like I belonged somewhere. After that, we stayed in touch. Tom and I started meeting for coffee every Saturday morning. Diane would text me recipes she thought I'd like. Sarah asked me to help her with her history homework. James wanted to hear stories about the old days. Slowly, Imperceptibly, they became part of my life. And I became part of theirs. I went to Sarah's high school graduation. I sat in the audience, beaming with pride, as she walked across the stage. Tom and Diane had saved me a seat right next to them. When Sarah spotted me in the crowd, she waved, and my heart swelled. I went to James's basketball games. I sat in the bleachers, cheering louder than anyone, and James would always find me afterward to ask what I thought of his performance. I told him the truth. He was getting better every game. I spent holidays with them. Thanksgiving, Easter, the 4th of July. And every Christmas, we went back to that same diner. It became our tradition. We'd laugh about that first meeting, about how a lonely old man had been rescued by a family of strangers. They called me their Christmas miracle. I called them my angels. Emily, meanwhile, faded from my life. She called occasionally, brief conversations that felt more like obligations than connections. She never mentioned Christmas, never apologized for what happened. She asked how I was. I said fine, and we hung up. I stopped reaching out as much. The distance between us grew, a chasm neither of us seemed willing to bridge. I heard about her life through snippets. She and Michael were doing well. They bought a new house. They were thinking about having children. Each update felt like a confirmation that I wasn't part of her world anymore. I grieved for the relationship we'd lost, but I also accepted it. You can't force someone to want you in their life. 5 years passed, then 6, then 7. Tom and Diane's children grew up. Sarah went to college, then graduate school. She became an art teacher, just like she'd dreamed. James got a basketball scholarship, studied business, and started his own small company. They both got married, and I was at both weddings, sitting in the front row, tears streaming down my face. Their spouses called me uncle. Their children, when they came along, called me grandpa. I had a family, a real family, not by blood, but by choice. And it was more than I ever could have hoped for. Then, 7 years after that first Christmas, the phone rang. It was a hospital. Emily had been in a car accident. She was alive, but she was badly injured. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, a traumatic brain injury. She was in the ICU, unconscious, fighting for her life. I hung up the phone and stood there, frozen. My daughter, my only child, lying in a hospital bed, possibly dying. And we hadn't spoken properly in years. The last time I'd seen her was, I couldn't even remember. A quick lunch, 2 years ago, when she'd passed through town. It had been awkward, stilted, full of silences. I called Tom. He answered on the first ring. I have to go, I said, my voice breaking. Emily. She's been in an accident. She's in the hospital. I have to go to her. Where? Tom asked immediately. Which hospital? Diane and I are coming with you. You don't have to. We're coming, he said firmly. You're not doing this alone. We'll be there in an hour. True to his word, Tom and Diane arrived at my apartment within the hour, bags packed. We drove through the night, 7 hours to the city where Emily lived. Tom drove the whole way while I stared out the window, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. When we finally arrived at the hospital, I was exhausted and terrified. Tom and Diane waited in the lobby while I went to the ICU. A doctor met me, explained her condition. She was stable but critical. The next 48 hours were crucial. She might have brain damage. They wouldn't know until she woke up. I sat by her bedside, holding her hand, for 2 days. Tom and Diane brought me food, made sure I slept in shifts, sat with me in the waiting room. They were my rock, my support, my family. On the 3rd day, Emily opened her eyes. She was confused, disoriented. She didn't recognize me at first. But slowly, consciousness returned. She looked at me, really looked at me, and tears filled her eyes. Dad? She whispered, her voice hoarse. I'm here, sweetheart, I said, squeezing her hand. I'm here. She drifted back to sleep. But she was alive. She was going to make it. Over the next few weeks, as Emily recovered, something shifted. She started talking, really talking, in a way she hadn't in years. She asked about my life, about what I'd been doing. I told her about Tom and Diane, about Sarah and James, about the grandchildren who called me grandpa. I told her about our Christmas tradition at the diner, about how a family of strangers had become my everything. She listened, and I saw something in her eyes. Regret, pain, longing. One afternoon, when she was well enough to sit up, she asked me to tell her the whole story. So I did. I started with that Christmas 7 years ago, with her text message, with the loneliness that had nearly swallowed me whole. I told her about the diner, about Tom's invitation, about the family that refused to let me eat alone. I told her about the years that followed, the holidays, the graduations, the weddings, the grandbabies. When I finished, Emily was crying. "I'm so sorry, Dad," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "For what?" I asked. "For everything. For that Christmas. For letting Michael push you away. For not fighting for you. For all the years I lost with you." I didn't say anything. I just held her hand. "Michael," she said, and her voice hardened slightly. He's not the same. After the accident, he visited once. For 20 minutes. Then he went home. He said hospitals made him uncomfortable. He said he'd come back when I was better. He hasn't called in 3 days. I felt a flash of anger, but I suppressed it. This wasn't the time. "Where is he now?" I asked. "Home. Living his life. While I'm here, fighting to walk again." She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "Dad, I made a mistake. I chose him over you, and it was the worst decision of my life. Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at my daughter, bruised and broken, but alive. I thought about all the years of hurt, all the Christmases alone, all the moments I'd wish she'd call. And I thought about Tom and Diane, about the family I'd found, about the love that had saved me. "I forgave you a long time ago, Emily," I said quietly. "I never stopped loving you. I had to learn to live without you. And I did. I built a new life. But that doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I'm not here now." She cried harder. I held her. And in that hospital room, something began to heal. Emily's recovery was slow. She had months of physical therapy ahead of her. Michael visited once more, briefly, then stopped coming altogether. She didn't talk about him much, but I could see the weight of it in her eyes. Her marriage was crumbling, and she knew it. When she was discharged from the hospital, she had nowhere to go. Michael had made it clear he didn't want her back at the house. She was facing the same rejection I had faced 7 years earlier, the same loneliness, the same sense of being unwanted. I didn't hesitate. "You're coming home with me," I said. She looked at me, surprised. "Dad, I can't." "You can, and you will. I have a spare room. It's not fancy, but it's warm. And you won't be alone." So Emily came home with me. To my small apartment, my quiet life, my world of routine and memories. It was awkward at first. We were strangers in some ways, learning to live together after years of distance. But slowly, day by day, we rebuilt our relationship. She met Tom and Diane. She was nervous, ashamed of how she'd treated me, afraid they'd judge her. But they welcomed her with open arms, the same way they'd welcomed me 7 years earlier. They didn't judge. They didn't lecture. They just loved. Sarah, now a married woman with a child of her own, came to visit. She brought her daughter, Lily, a bubbly 3-year-old who immediately adored Grandpa's new friend. Emily watched them together, and I saw tears in her eyes. "They're your family," she whispered to me later. "Yes," I said. "They are." And I missed all of it. I missed becoming part of this. I nodded. "You did. But you're here now. That's what matters." The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Michael didn't fight it. He'd already moved on, apparently, with someone new. Emily was hurt, of course, but also relieved. The marriage had been dying for years, she admitted. The accident just exposed what was already broken. She started therapy. She started rebuilding her life. She got a job at a local bookstore, something low stress, while she continued her physical therapy. She made friends, slowly, carefully. And she became part of my world, the world I'd built without her. Our first Christmas together in 7 years was at Tom and Diane's house. The whole family was there: Tom, Diane, Sarah and her husband, and little Lily, James and his wife, who was pregnant with their first child. And Emily, my daughter, sitting at the table, laughing, eating, belonging. Halfway through dinner, Tom raised his glass. "To family," he said. "The one you're born into, and the one you find along the way." Everyone clinked glasses. Emily caught my eye across the table and smiled. It was a real smile, full of warmth and gratitude. I smiled back, my heart full to bursting. After dinner, we all went to the diner. The same diner where, 7 years ago, a kind family had invited a lonely old man to join them. Now that diner was packed with people I loved. We took up 3 booths pushed together. The waitress, the same tired-looking woman with kind eyes, remembered us. She smiled when she saw the crowd. "Look at you," she said to me. "From eating alone to this." I laughed. Turns out, I'm not so alone anymore. Emily sat next to me, her hand on my arm. She leaned in and whispered, "Thank you, Dad, for not giving up on me, for letting me come home." I kissed the top of her head. "You're always welcome home, sweetheart. Always." That night, as I drove back to my apartment with Emily asleep in the passenger seat, I thought about the strange journey that had brought us here. The pain of rejection, the loneliness of that Christmas, the kindness of strangers who became family. And now, the healing, the slow, painful, beautiful process of finding my way back to my daughter. I thought about Sarah, my late wife. She would have loved this. She would have loved Tom and Diane, and Sarah and James, and little Lily. She would have loved seeing Emily laugh again. She would have loved knowing that I wasn't alone. "I did it, Sarah," I whispered into the darkness of the car. "I found them, and I brought her home." The snow was falling again, soft and gentle, blanketing the world in white. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. It was exactly right. Emily stayed with me for 2 years, until she was back on her feet, both physically and emotionally. She got her own apartment, just a few blocks from mine. We had dinner together every Sunday. She became part of the extended family, aunt to Sarah's children, friend to Diane, coffee companion to Tom. She never remarried. She dated, but nothing serious. She said she was happy with her life as it was. She had her dad, her new family, her job at the bookstore, her friends. It was enough. Michael tried to reconnect once, a few years later. He sent a letter, apologizing, asking to meet. Emily showed it to me, her face unreadable. "What do you think?" she asked. I thought about it. About the man who hadn't wanted me at Christmas. About the husband who'd abandoned his wife in the hospital. About the years of pain he'd caused, directly and indirectly. "It's your choice," I said. "Whatever you decide, I'll support you." She nodded, took the letter, and threw it in the trash. "I have all the family I need," she said. And she did. We both did. Tom and Diane are in their 70s now, slowing down, but still sharp, still warm, still the heart of our extended clan. Sarah has 2 children, both of who call me Grandpa. James has 3, and they do the same. We gather for every holiday, every birthday, every milestone. The house is always full of noise and laughter and love. And every Christmas, without fail, we go to the diner. The same booth, the same waitress, retired now, but she comes in just to see us. The same tradition. We order way too much food. We tell the story of how we met, and we toast to the miracle of found family. Emily always sits next to me. She always holds my hand. And she always says the same thing. "Thank you for not giving up on me, Dad. Thank you for finding them. Thank you for waiting." And I always say the same thing back. "Thank you for coming home." Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Coming home. Finding your people. Building a life worth living. Even when the people who should love you let you down. I'm 70 years old now. My hair is gray, my steps are slower, my memories are longer. But my heart is full. Fuller than it's ever been. I have a daughter who loves me, a family that chose me, and a lifetime of moments I wouldn't trade for anything. That Christmas, 7 years ago, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd spend the rest of my days alone, unwanted, forgotten. Instead, it was just the beginning. The beginning of a new chapter, a new family, a new life. And it all started with a text message that broke my heart, and a stranger who mended it. If you're out there, alone this Christmas, feeling forgotten and unwanted, I want you to know something. It gets better. It really does. There are people out there who will love you, who will choose you, who will make you part of their family. You just have to be open to them. You just have to say yes when they invite you to their table. Because you never know. That invitation might change your life. Emily is 40 now. She runs the bookstore, volunteers at the local shelter, and spends her weekends with her nieces and nephews. She's happy, truly, deeply happy. And every time I see her smile, I remember that hospital room, that broken girl, that long road back to each other. We made it. Both of us. Not despite the pain, but because of it. Because sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. Last week, Emily came over for our Sunday dinner. She seemed nervous, fidgeting with her napkin, avoiding my eyes. "Dad," she said finally, "I have something to tell you." My heart clenched. "What is it?" She took a deep breath. "I've been seeing someone. For a few months now. His name is David. He's really wonderful. Kind, patient, understanding. He knows everything. About you, about Michael, about the accident, about all of it. And he wants to meet you." I stared at her. Then I smiled. a huge, genuine smile. Bring him, I said. Bring him to Sunday dinner next week. I'll make my famous meatloaf. She laughed, relief flooding her face. You're not upset? Why would I be upset? You deserve to be happy, Emily. You deserve someone who sees you, really sees you, and loves you anyway. She hugged me tight. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. Always. The next Sunday, David came to dinner. He was a nice man, a high school English teacher, quiet and thoughtful. He looked at Emily like she was the most precious thing in the world. He shook my hand firmly, looked me in the eye, and said, "Thank you for raising such an amazing woman. I'll do my best to be worthy of her." I liked him immediately. Over dinner, he asked about my life, about my years as a teacher, about my hobbies. He listened intently, asked follow-up questions, remembered the details. He didn't once check his phone or look around the room. He was present, fully present, in a way that Michael never had been. After dinner, Emily walked him to his car. I watched from the window, saw them kiss, saw her smile. It was a real smile, the kind I hadn't seen on her face in years. When she came back inside, she was glowing. "He's the one, Dad," she said softly. "I know it's soon, but I just know." "Then don't let him go," I said. "Hold on tight." She did. A year later, they were engaged. A year after that, married. A small ceremony, just family. Tom and Diane were there, of course. Sarah and James, and all the grandchildren. And me, walking my daughter down the aisle, handing her to a man who would love her the way she deserved. At the reception, Emily pulled me aside. "Dad," she said, her eyes shining with tears, "I want you to know something. All those years I was gone, all that time I wasted, I'll never forgive myself for it. But I'm so grateful you found them. I'm so grateful you weren't alone. Because if you had been, if you had given up, I might never have found my way back to you." I hugged her tight. "You found me. That's all that matters. And they're my family now too," she said, looking at Tom and Diane across the room. "They adopted me, just like they adopted you. I have two families now. The one I was born into, and the one I found. That's how it works," I said. "Love multiplies. It doesn't divide." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, Emily. Forever." Today, I'm sitting in my favorite chair, looking at a photo collage on my wall. There's Sarah, my late wife, young and beautiful on our wedding day. There's Emily, age 5, missing 2 front teeth, grinning at the camera. There's Tom and Diane, at their 50th anniversary party. There's Sarah and James, graduating, getting married, holding their babies. There's Emily and David, on their wedding day, radiant with joy. And there's a photo from last Christmas. All of us, packed into the diner, 3 booths pushed together, laughing, raising our glasses. The waitress, retired now, is in the photo too, standing with us, part of the family. I look at that photo, and I marvel at the journey. The pain, the loss, the loneliness. And then the kindness, the connection, the love. All of it leading to this moment. This full, rich, beautiful life. If someone had told me, on that lonely Christmas 7 years ago, that this is where I'd end up, I wouldn't have believed them. I couldn't have imagined it. But life is funny that way. It surprises you. It gives you exactly what you need when you least expect it. All you have to do is say yes when a stranger invites you to their table. So that's my story. The story of the Christmas I wasn't wanted and the family I found instead. If it touched you, if it made you feel something, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more real-life tales, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. You never know who might be sitting alone this Christmas, waiting for an invitation. And remember, family isn't always blood. Sometimes, it's the people who see you eating alone and refuse to let you stay that way. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves and each other. And if you're alone this holiday season, go to a diner. You never know who you might meet.